You know how certain sounds belong to a house? The low hum of a refrigerator at night, pipes settling like an old man shifting in his sleep, floorboards remembering every step you've ever taken. When you live somewhere long enough, you stop hearing these things as noise. They become part of the language of the place, a quiet reassurance that everything is where it should be. And when something new enters that language, you notice, even if you pretend you don't. The first time it happened, it was late. Not dramatically late, just the kind of hour when the world has already decided you should be asleep. 11:43 p.m. I remember because I glanced at the microwave clock while rinsing a mug. The house felt settled. My upstairs neighbor had stopped pacing. The traffic outside had thinned to the occasional passing car that sounded like it was driving through water. That's when I heard it. 3 knocks. Soft. Measured. Not urgent. Just enough to sound intentional. I dried my hands slowly, listening for a follow-up. People don't usually knock once and wait. There's a rhythm to visitors, a second attempt, a shift of weight, maybe a phone buzzing in their hand. But nothing came. I walked to the door, more curious than cautious. I didn't feel fear, just that mild annoyance you get when routine is interrupted. I opened it. The hallway was empty. The overhead light flickered the way it always did, casting that pale, tired glow over the carpet runner. The air smelled faintly of cleaning solution and someone's late dinner. Onions, maybe. I stepped out, looked both ways. No one. I told myself it was probably the apartment across the hall. Sound travels strangely in older buildings. Knocks echo, walls lie. I closed the door, locked it, and didn't think much about it. At least not that night. Over the next week, life did what life always does. It filled the space. Work emails, grocery lists, half-finished conversations, the small, ordinary responsibilities that keep you from listening too closely to silence. And then, the second knock came. This time it was earlier, 8:17 p.m. I was on the couch, halfway through a show I wasn't really watching, when the sound landed again, the same 3 knocks. Not louder, not softer, just precise. The kind of knock that suggests patience. I muted the TV and waited. Silence. No footsteps retreating, no voices, no elevator ding. I opened the door a little faster this time, as if speed might catch whoever did it mid-step. The hallway was empty again. But something felt different. Not wrong exactly, just paused. Like a room where someone had just stopped talking. I leaned out, listening. There's a specific quiet that happens when you're alone. A loose, relaxed quiet. This wasn't that. This was tight. Held. I told myself it was nothing. People knock on the wrong doors all the time. Still, when I closed the door, I didn't go back to the couch right away. I stood there for a moment, hand resting on the lock, as if expecting it to turn on its own. It didn't. By the third time, it wasn't curiosity anymore. It was recognition. You know how your body sometimes understands something before your mind catches up? A subtle tightening, a shift in breathing, the sense that you're being addressed. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. Daylight spilling across the floor, the kind of quiet that feels safe because it's visible. 3 knocks. Exactly the same. I didn't move right away. I just sat at the table, hands resting on a book I hadn't turned a page in 10 minutes. A strange thought surfaced, not fully formed, more like a feeling wearing words. It sounds like it knows you're here. I shook it off, stood, and opened the door. Empty hallway. But this time, I noticed something I hadn't before. The air felt cooler just beyond the threshold, like stepping into shade. And there was a faint smell, not unpleasant, just familiar in a way I couldn't place. Like dust and old paper. I closed the door slowly, and for the first time, I checked the peephole before locking it. After that, I started paying attention to things I hadn't noticed before. How the apartment seemed quieter than usual, as if sounds were being absorbed instead of echoing. how I'd occasionally feel the faintest sense of movement behind me, only to turn and find nothing had changed. How the nights felt longer, not in hours, but in the way time stretched when I was awake. The knocks didn't stop every day. Sometimes a week passed, sometimes just 2 days. Always 3 knocks, always the same spacing, always no one there. I considered the logical explanations first: a neighbor's prank, a building quirk, someone knocking and walking away. But logic depends on variation, mistakes, inconsistencies, evidence of human error. There were none. It was the consistency that unsettled me. Whoever or whatever was knocking never rushed, never hesitated, never changed the pattern. It felt less like a request for entry and more like a reminder. One night, I decided not to answer. It was late again, close to midnight. I was already in bed when the sound came, those same 3 deliberate knocks. My heart reacted before my thoughts did, a sudden sharp awareness spreading through my chest. But I stayed still. I told myself, if it's a person, they'll knock again. They didn't. The silence afterward felt heavier than usual, like the apartment was listening to me listening. I lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the faint sounds of someone leaving. Nothing. Eventually, sleep came, shallow, uneasy, filled with dreams that dissolved before I could remember them. The next morning, I found something that I still can't fully explain: a faint mark on the inside of the door. Not a scratch, not damage, just a subtle smudge, about where someone's knuckles might rest, if they were knocking from the other side. I stared at it longer than I'd like to admit. There are moments when your mind tries to build a bridge between what you know and what you see, a quick, comforting explanation. Maybe it had always been there. Maybe I just never noticed. But the thought arrived anyway, uninvited. Why would there be a mark on the inside? I wiped it away with my sleeve. The door looked normal again. But something inside me had shifted, a quiet understanding that whatever this was, it wasn't just happening at the threshold. It was happening in the space I thought was mine. After that, the knocks began to feel less like interruptions and more like appointments. I'd sensed them before they happened, a subtle change in the atmosphere, like the air holding its breath. Then, knock. 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 I stopped answering, not out of courage, out of something closer to instinct. The strange thing is, not answering didn't stop the feeling of being addressed. If anything, it intensified it, like ignoring someone who keeps calling your name softly from another room. One night, I found myself standing near the door before the sound even came, as if I'd been summoned. And when the knocks finally arrived, I didn't flinch. I just listened. For the first time, I noticed something beneath the sound, not audible exactly, but present. A pause afterward that felt expectant, like whoever was knocking was waiting to see if I remembered. Memory is a strange thing. It doesn't move in straight lines. It circles, it hides, it returns when you least expect it, wearing the face of something ordinary. A sound, a smell, a rhythm. One night, as I lay awake replaying the knocks in my mind, a memory surfaced so quietly I almost missed it. A different door. Years ago. A hospital hallway. I remembered standing outside a room, hand raised, hesitating. I had been younger, unsure, carrying something I didn't know how to say. I remembered knocking. 3 times. Softly, because I wasn't sure if I wanted the person inside to answer. I remembered the silence that followed, and how I'd eventually turned away, telling myself I'd come back later. I never did. The realization didn't arrive like a revelation. It settled in slowly, like dust drifting onto a surface you hadn't noticed was bare. The knocks at my door felt the same. Not identical, but familiar in a way that bypassed logic. A rhythm I knew. A hesitation I recognized. The next time it happened, I did something different. I stood on the other side of the door and spoke. "I hear you." The words sounded small in the apartment, like they didn't quite belong to the space. There was no response, of course, but the silence afterward felt less empty, more complete. I rested my forehead lightly against the wood, feeling the cool surface, the faint vibration of the building's life moving through it.